Alright, our pendant is out of the kiln now. The decal has been fired. We will give you the firing directions for the fused glass, the fire polishing, and the decal temperatures, the schedules at the very end of this tutorial. Alright, we're ready to do some wire wrapping now, and there's a number of different ways you can do that. This pendant is fairly simple and straightforward, and I think probably a simple wire wrap would be sufficient for it. So let's just talk a little bit about wire wrapping. You usually use silver of some kind to wire wrap, or gold. And there are several possible techniques. One, we could put a hole in the top of the pendant here and wrap some wire around that, make a little bail to hang it on. We could put two holes, one at the top, another at the bottom, and we could wrap it around the top one and go around the pendant a couple of times perhaps, and through the bottom hole, and maybe back up and make some kind of design across the face of the pendant. I don't think that I'll do that because I like to keep the simplicity of this particular pendant the way it is. Another option is, there are many options, but another option, and the option we're going to use, is to take what's called a jewelry cutter and trim an edge, put a groove actually right around the pendant at about the halfway point on the pendant. And so that's what we'll do first. We'll put a groove. Now, thinking about the groove, we're going to put wire around that groove. You have a couple options. One, if you want the wire to be hidden, you make the groove deep enough to hide the wire. So about 1/8 of an inch would do that, and you use a smaller wire. Or you don't need as deep a groove if you're going to want the wire to be shown, and just have a groove enough to hold the pendant tightly. And that's basically what we're going to do. We want to have the pendant actually show, be part of the wire to show and be part of the pendant. So we're going to use a tool that looks like this. It has a edge that cuts a groove around the pendant, and we'll go ahead and do that and then give you an idea how that works. Alright, we have the grinder here, and we're going to change the heads from the regular grinding head we had on there. We'll remove that, so we'll use the Allen wrench to loosen that screw, and then we can lift the head off, and we'll put the new jewelry head on. And now we've got to get that so that the groove is at the right distance to cut into the pendant about halfway up. So we'll lay the pendant in here so that we can see and size the groove. There's a tendency as you press down for the machine head to go down a little bit, so I'll keep that in mind depending on how hard you press. And we'll put the groove that looks like it's about the center of the pendant and tighten it up. And that's it. From that point we're ready to cut the groove. So we'll turn it on and begin turning the groove around it. Best way is to just continually go around until you have the depth that you want. Alright, we're just about done. And what we should have now is a little groove around the pendant. It's hard to see on this distance, but there is a slight groove there, and it'll be enough to hold a piece of wire. That piece of wire can go around there and hold it tight. So we're going to go clean the pendant and get it clean, and then we're ready to start with the wire wrap. Alright, I have the equipment I'll need to do the wire wrapping. Basically, I have 4 tools in the wire. One tool is a pair of jeweler's round nose pliers. The pliers are actually round on the ends. I have a pair of jeweler's flat nose pliers. which are flat, and what makes them jeweler's pliers is there are no ridges in the pliers. They are flat so that it will not mar the silver. A pair of dikes or cutters to cut the wire, and if I need it, I like to have a little flat file available for touching up the end of the wire if it needs to be touched up. And then I have the wire. You can use any kind of wire. You can use copper wire, you can use silver wire, you can use sterling silver, fine silver. This happens to be argentium silver, which is a silver that does not tarnish as fast as either the fine or the sterling silver does. In terms of size, most often size 20 or 22 is used. The larger the number, the smaller the wire, so 22 would be smaller than 20. This is argentium 20 gauge, and it will fit so that it fits in the groove that we've made, and we will wrap the pendant that way. So the first step that we need to do, and I have much more wire than I need here, but rather than cut it off, I'm going to take the end of the wire and I'm going to find, I think I'll start with this end here. I'm going to take my round nosed pliers, and we'll just get in and look a little bit closer. We can see what we're doing here. And I'm going to take the round nose pliers and just hold it and make myself a loop that's approximately half an inch, just roughly. So we just form a loop in it like that, about half an inch, and pull that so it crosses the other wire, just enough that we have the loop in there. Now at this point I'm going to hold that with my flat nose pliers and grab those two wires with the flat nose pliers, like so. And then I'm going to bend the little tail that's left over here at 90 degrees to that wire, so that we have tail about 90 degrees to the wire. And then I can twist it under the wire and begin to twist it around. I only want a couple turns to hold the top of this. So we go around the wire here. Once I have the first, I prefer to work with the flat nose pliers and take it, straighten it out a little, bend that wire around. Just play with this till you get it the way you want. I don't want it to come up and be fairly tight around the wire. Alright, that'll do for a start. So we've just made a little loop in the wire and cinched it so that it's closed at the bottom. Now I'm going to take this loop, and again I'm going to bend the wire about, actually a little more than 90 degrees, so that I have the wire bent like this. And at that point I can take my pendant and put the top portion the wire as centered on to the pendant. Wrap around, holding the wire with the other hand, wrapping around the groove, back up and over that wire and pulling back to lock that wire in. So the wire is actually in and locked in. Now, I can cut off the extra now. I know that I'm not going to need. So I'll cut off, I'll leave about a half an inch. Put the extra away. And now we'll go to tightening this up a little bit. So we'll take the flat nose plier, we'll wrap this around here once. Now I want to grab it with that flat nose plier, hold it tight while I actually twist the pendant slightly in the same direction, tightening the wire. When I feel the wire is tight on the pendant, and adjust so that I make sure the center is at the center of the pendant, Then the matter of completing the pendant is simply to continue around with the wire and then at that point we'll cut off the excess that we don't need. Tuck the end in. Make sure we don't have any sharp points that will grab the clothes. If we did, we could, as I said before, we could file them. Turn the pendant 90 degrees to the loop 90 degrees to the pendant, and then we have a pendant that we can hang on a chain, a little bail. It's made with our loop, and simple. You can see it on the side, the wire shows, which gives it sort of an outline, and that finishes our pendant, makes a very nice simple pendant. Well, that completes this tutorial. Hope that you found something useful in it. I've included here for your convenience the firing schedules for the full fuse, for the fire polishing, and for the decals. Come back and see us again.